Please welcome to the stage Waylon Hannell, country music artist, as he sings the national anthem.
Go Millington. Gentlemen, please remove your caps, and if there is any veterans in this wonderful building today, please do the military salute if able. See if I can get this on without shaking too much. You're the man. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you. Folks, I was told that I have time to play one more song. Is that okay? This right here is going to be on my new album coming out November 29th. And Mr. JD Vance, I hope that you like this tune as much as I do. This song right here is called Don't Mess With My Country, original song that I wrote. Well, they say this country's on a slippery slope. Looking around, well, it might be so, and I can get along with most folks, but don't mess with my country. And my Bible says to turn the other cheek, but I know freedom isn't free, so don't you take my guns from me, and don't mess with my country. As I watch that eagle fly, ones who died, so I can wave my flag with pride. So you best not mess with my country. I turn on my radio, trying to find some old George Jones. His hip-hop junk has gotta go, so don't mess with my country. And you know I like my rock and roll, Leonard Skinner and the Rolling Stones, but Nashville's a long way from Muscle Shoals. Don't mess with my country. Right is right, wrong is wrong, so don't tell me that's a country song. It's time you choose which side you're on. So you best not mess with my country. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Don't tell me that's a country song. It's time you choose which side you're on. So you best know you best not mess with my country. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage, representing Michigan's 95th House District, Representative Bill G. Schuette.
Well, good morning. How are we doing, everybody? All right, I got two questions for you. Two questions. First, are you ready to elect Donald Trump and JD Vance? Number two, are you ready to get out the moving vans to send Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Tim Walz packing? Okay, you guys got the right answers. You got the right answers. Very, very good, very good. My name is Bill G. Schuette. I am a state representative out of Midland. I am the chairman of Michigan's House Republican Campaign Committee. And I am so happy to say that in 7 days, just 1 week, we are going to elect Donald Trump and JD Vance here in Michigan. We are going to have a new U.S. Senator in Mike Rogers. My friend Paul Young is going to be our next congressman here in the 8th District. We're going to elect rule of law justices in Andrew Fink and William O'Grady. And we are going to end the Democrat tyranny in Lansing by taking back the Michigan State House for the Republicans. So I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you how. The why is because Americans are hurting. Americans are hurting under a broken economy that was fractured by a recipe cooked up by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Because Kamala Harris, she was in the room cooking up the ingredients of this broken economy. It is an inflation, the highest inflation of my lifetime, which is robbing your savings, reducing your take-home pay, and meaning that, those grocery prices, we've all seen them, they're going up and up. And they've knifed our domestic energy production with this far-left Green New Deal, sending our gas, boo, that's bad. It's bad, very bad. And it's sending our home heating bills, our gas bills through the roof. And how about those EV mandates? These elitist EV mandates, they want to tell you what type of car to drive. And remember, Kamala Harris, when she was asked, would you have changed anything from what Joe Biden did? She said, not a thing comes to mind. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the problem. Because with a crisis on our southern border, the highest prices we've seen in decades, that is the problem, and that is why we need to elect JD Vance and Donald Trump. So that's the why. Here is the how. We have 7 days. We have 1 week. We can win this by getting out and voting and hard work. So you have 7 days. You have 7 days to make those phone calls, to go knock on those doors, to bank your vote, so that on Election Day in Michigan, we elect Donald Trump and JD Vance, Mike Rogers, Paul Young, and we take back the Michigan House. Thank you, everybody. Let's go win.
Please welcome to the stage our next congressman from the 8th District, Paul Young.
Is this a great-looking crowd or what? We are in the heart of Michigan's 8th District, and that roar that I just heard, I think they heard it in Midland, they heard it in Bay City, they heard it down in Flint, in my hometown of Grand Blanc, and I thank you for being here. I thank you for your enthusiasm, and when I see all of you, I was out knocking doors over the weekend. I'm out doing teletown halls. I'm out everywhere in the district working hard. I'm seeing that same enthusiasm throughout the district. So again, thank you for being here. Keep up that hard work and we're going to win. We are 7 days away from sending Donald J. Trump back to the White House. Like all of you, I am so pleased that the next Vice President of the United States is going to be with us shortly, because he's going to back up Donald Trump, and that's JD Vance, and it's so exciting to have him here in Saginaw today. We have to have a U.S. Senate that is going to confirm Donald Trump's appointments to various parts of the federal government. I think we're going to get that, and a key part of that is making sure that we elect Mike Rogers to the U.S. Senate. And again, with all of your help, so many of you as I came in this morning told me, Paul, I have already voted for you. When I see that support throughout the district, if we all get that done, we can make sure that this seat here, Michigan's 8th District, and I know all of you know this, it's Genesee County, it's Saginaw County, it's Bay County, and it's most of Midland County. We are going to send a Republican, this Republican, Paul Young, to the U.S. House of Representatives. You know, it's a small measure of just how important this race is. Many of you, I saw you just 10 days ago, because Speaker Mike Johnson and Jim Jordan were right here in Saginaw, because they know this is that important of a race. And this busy time, busy day, if any of you are available at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Majority Leader Steve Scalise is going to be down at Mueller Orchards in Genesee County. The national Republican leaders know this is the swing seat in a swing state. Try saying that 3 times fast. This is the swing seat in a swing state that we essentially have to win, and we're going to get that done. So it's just so exciting to see all of you here today. I would love to go on for quite a while about the very important substantive issues that all of us are facing, but I know you know those issues. You know the issues when you're at the grocery store. You know the issue when you pass the gas pump. You know when you have to pay your monthly insurance premiums or make a rent payment, that things are just too expensive, and we know who to blame. It's an easy question to ask. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And I think the answers are sounding no. And we know who's responsible for that. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have totally irresponsible policies. Sleepy Joe Biden, exactly. They are to blame for the economic conditions that too many working families are facing and struggling with, and that is why we must elect Donald J. Trump President of the United States. I could talk about the economic policies, and I know many of you know them, but I just want to give one example of why Donald Trump will obviously be a far superior leader to Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is focused on working families, and he looked at how do a lot of people make a living, and what can I do to very specifically talk to them and help them make ends meet every month. And he came up with no tax on tips. Now, that's not going to get to every working family, but that's going to get to a lot of working families. I did an event down in Genesee County, down in Burton, and a server said that if I don't have to pay tax on my tips, that's going to be about $300 or $400 extra every week. So $1,000 a month. And she said that'll make a tremendous difference as she's raising her kids, paying her rent, and covering the expenses she needs to cover. So I point this out because Donald Trump is thinking innovatively. He's looking for ways to do things that will make a difference in people's lives. And just as a quick aside, we will need to have a Republican majority in the House and the Senate to pass that. And that's part of why I'm going to go to Washington and do those kind of things. But we can contrast that with the Democrats' current nominee. I don't know if they're going to switch out their nominee in the next 7 days or not. But about a week or 10 days after Donald Trump comes up with this innovation, what does copycat Kamala come along with? Oh, I like that idea too. You know it's not true, because you know that the terribly named Inflation Reduction Act, which was actually the Inflation Ignition Act, required a tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate. So in her capacity as vice president, she was, of course, responsible for these policies, but she was directly responsible for the policies of the Inflation Reduction Act with her tie-breaking vote. And there's so many aspects of that piece of legislation, one of which was, though, to hire 83,000 IRS agents. And of course, the Democrats want to sell that policy based on the idea of, oh, we'll just go after the rich. But that's not what really happened. What do those agents mostly do? They go after wage earners and people earning tips. And so we know that Kamala Harris, when she has the power, she is attacking working people. Donald Trump is going to work for working people. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I'm so enthusiastic, I think I've doubled the time that they asked me to take. So I'll just make one last point, and that is to say, the other big issue we have to face is securing our southern border. And I think most of you know that I am proud to have served in the Trump administration in the Department of Homeland Security. My job working in the Trump administration was to help him secure our southern border. I worked on border and immigration issues, and so I know, and I think you all know as well, the key difference about securing our southern border and keeping our neighborhoods safe is to have leadership that actually gives a darn about that issue. Border czar Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, they are asleep at the wheel. They don't care. They won't do it. They will blame Republicans. But when we return Donald J. Trump to the White House, we will secure that southern border. And when you send me, I'm going to support Donald J. Trump in making that happen. So again, it is so great to see all of you here this morning. I know I've gone over my time, and we've got two great speakers coming up next. It's my real pleasure to be here for both of them. Can't wait to see JD Vance. But all of you, thank you so much. God bless you.
Please welcome to the stage, all the way from the great state of Florida, Congressman Byron Donalds.
I've never been to Saginaw, Michigan. I like it here. I've never been here before, but I like it. I like Saginaw. You better watch yourself now. My wife is down in Florida. I'm going to tell her about you. Watch out now. I was in the back and they were telling me a little bit about Saginaw. I landed about 10 o'clock last night. And when I landed, second thing that came to my mind is this is a blue-collar town. It's a hard-working town. It's a town built on ethic, values, work, grit, discipline, and common sense. JD Vance and Donald Trump are going to bring common sense and all those values back to the United States of America. They also told me in the back that this is a bellwether for the state of Michigan. They said in the back that how Saginaw goes, so goes this great state. So Saginaw, we need you to do one very simple thing. And I got to be the bearer of straight talk with you now. We need you to get out and vote. That's what we need you to do. Get out and vote. This election, everybody's saying the same thing. It's super tight. It's super tight. Well, there's only one way that our country moves, and that is by the will of the American people. And that will is demonstrated by your vote in 7 days for Donald J. Trump. Are you guys excited to hear from JD Vance today? I talked to the president 2 days ago. Actually, yesterday I talked to him. I was with him the day before that in MSG. And I got to tell you, his spirits are high. He is working incredibly hard. JD Vance is working incredibly hard. And they are working hard for you. This is an election about you. This is an election for the auto workers here in Saginaw and all through the state of Michigan. This is an election about stopping this silliness about demanding electric cars that we get from China, not built here in America. Donald Trump and JD Vance, they're going to get rid of that electric car mandate, and we're going to make automobiles here in America. It's about having, yes, a tax policy that works for everybody in the United States of America. This is why one of the first tax proposals Donald Trump came out with in this campaign, it was so good even Kamala had to steal it. That's how good it was. She had to steal it. No tax on tips. And listen, let me tell you something. I was a waiter when I was in college. I wish Donald Trump came along back then with no tax on tips. Are you kidding me? He would have had my vote in college, and I'm telling you, in 7 days, he's going to have my vote again because he's going to make America great again. He's also said for everybody that works hard every single day, no tax on overtime. You like that one. I could tell you excited about that one. And then he came out with something, and this one even got me, because I had to ask him. I was like, sir, where did you even get that one? I used to work in finance, and what I did a lot was work with people who were retirees, some from Michigan who made their way down to Florida. I know I-75 runs down from here all the way down to Fort Myers and Naples, Florida. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. And so when he comes out and he says, Byron, wait till you hear me announce this one. I go, all right, sir, what do you got? He goes, no tax on Social Security. You see, Kamala lies. I know she does. She lies. She's trying to tell everybody and scare them and bring fear to the American people. Donald Trump is bringing hope to the American people. He is bringing leadership to the American people. He is going to bring affordability and security and safety to the American people. She says his tax policy is all about the rich. No, it is not. His tax policy is about the working men and women of the United States of America, the forgotten men and women of the United States of America. His energy policy, drill, baby, drill. And we're going to drill. And we're going to drill. That's about every man and woman that goes out there and busts their hump every day. Ladies, your hair looks good. There's no hair coloring going on in this room. I know that. None of that's happening here. We don't do that in Saginaw. No. But I'm going to tell you this. Thank you. Hi. I'm keeping a list from my wife. You over there. You over there. I got you. I got you now. But let me tell you this. Ladies, you want to get your hair colored? You need oil. I know the crazy left doesn't like talking about this, but hair dye is a derivative of petroleum. They don't like talking about it. You know, college kids, for the young people in the room, cell phones, you can't make them without oil. Every MAGA hat in this room, guess what? You need a derivative of petroleum. You need it. You need oil. So we're going to drill, baby, drill, because we are about common sense here in America. That's what we're about. Donald Trump and JD Vance, they've come out with, they call it the Aurora Plan. Because we are going to deport illegal immigrants out of the United States. We are going to send them home. And for the media, I see y'all back there. And for the media, let me just say, because we want to be clear. Oh, I'm about to be. Watch this. Here we go. Watch this. Immigration is for the American people, not for other countries. Hold on. Oh, just wait. You're going to like this one. Hold on. Time out. You two ladies, have a seat. I see you now. Hang out. We Americans, whether you are white, whether you are black, or whether you're Hispanic, we want legal immigration into the United States of America. That's what we want. And Donald Trump is going to secure our border, and we will have legal immigration. So anybody from any country, they come to America legally, they will have that opportunity to be a part of the fabric of America, to assimilate into America, to have those same values, whether it's Saginaw, Michigan, or Fort Myers, Florida, here in America. But we do it legally, we do it the right way, not the Kamala Harris way. I'd be remiss, I got to talk about this one because I saw the signs behind me. Had a chance to meet with RFKJ, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And by the way, do you see this coalition around Donald Trump and JD Vance? You got Vivek Ramaswamy. Tulsi Gabbard is now a Republican. Robert F. Kennedy is supporting Donald Trump. Elon Musk is all over the state of Pennsylvania. And you got me. But In talking with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his team, Donald Trump and JD Vance are locked in and committed. We are going to make America healthy again. We're going to take care of our kids, make sure they get what they need, the correct nutrition for them and their futures. Now, the last thing before I leave y'all, because I got to get home. I got to go, I got to meet the president tomorrow. So it's a journey. It's a journey. I don't have the time to go down I-75, y'all. I don't got that kind of time because we are 7 days away. So we got to be everywhere. But there's something that's near and dear to my heart. I've been talking about it everywhere I go. And I know it's near and dear to yours. Well, that's the other one. But that ain't the one I'm talking about. Give me a minute. I love you too. We have something we have to do. And it's for our kids. We are going to stop this radical transgender ideology where they are stealing puberty from our kids. Donald Trump and JD Vance are going to protect children in America. And we're going to make sure that you don't have men in women's sports because women deserve to have their shot too. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. Common sense, decency, tolerance, respect, grit. Those are going to be the values of America when Donald J. Trump becomes the 47th president of the United States. So Saginaw, now it's your turn. You got to get out and vote. I know you got 3 people in your cell phones who are wishy-washy on voting. You better get them from the bar, get them from the couch, get them from the football games. Make sure they get out and vote. That's your job. We have to make it too big to rig. But I promise you this, Donald Trump's going to work hard. JD Vance is going to work hard. We're all going to work hard. We're going to do all of this together. And in 7 days, we're going to watch Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid crying on their news desks. I'm going to like that one personally. We're going to watch George Stephanopoulos just be upset, shaking his head, not understanding what happened. And we're going to fire Kamala Harris and make America great again. God bless you, Saginaw. God bless Michigan. Let's turn Michigan red. God bless America.
A lot of people feel like the American dream is further and further away. That if you work hard and play by the rules, it's a little bit harder to get ahead. It's a little bit harder to support a family, a little bit harder to buy a home. The world I grew up in was one where I think for the first time really in American history, my parents' generation did not expect their children to necessarily have a better life than they did. And you saw that in all kinds of different ways, but there was this sense growing up in Middletown in the 1990s that a lot of people didn't expect the future to be better than the past, and that's a really unique and a really tragic thing. The jobs started to disappear from that community, drugs started to move in, hopelessness started to move in, and so a lot of people who really knew that the future would be better than the past actually found a world that was a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging. I wrote Hillbilly Elegy because I wanted to give people a sense of what it was like to live in a community like mine. I didn't think a whole lot of stories were told about white working class Americans. I didn't think a lot of stories were told about people who were struggling with some of the problems we were struggling with, joblessness, drug addiction, and so forth. And I thought that I could tell a story that would make people understand my family a little bit better, and maybe in the process understand the struggles of a lot of families. I come from the places that I want to represent, and what we need is to stop sending people that are of the DC swamp. We need to send people who are of the places they aim to represent. I want to fight for the people that I come from.
The American media has been laundering foreign disinformation. It is disgusting. Instead of talking about the crises in our country, they try to silence the people who are experiencing them. Who do you want answering the phone? Do you want a person who hides from the friendly American media, or do you want a person who takes a bullet to the head and stands up and says, fight, fight, fight? Kamala Harris, you ought to have respect enough for your own people to enforce their border laws and listen to them. Listen to them when they complain about it. Don't pretend they're bad people. We're not bad people for loving this country. You're a bad person for doing this to the country in the first place.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Senator JD Vance.
Thank you. Wow. Well, it is fantastic to yet again be in the great state of Michigan. Thank you all. And I got to say, we've got 7 days, or as we used to say in the Marine Corps, 7 days in a wake-up. We're going to win the state of Michigan. We're going to make Donald Trump the next president of the United States. We're going to do it because of all of you. Now, we're so thrilled to be joined by the incredible Florida Representative Byron Donalds. Thank you so much, Byron, for being here. He's actually headed to Detroit as we speak. We're, of course, thrilled to be joined by the great state representative, Bill Schuett. Where's Bill? Bill, thank you. Everybody calls him Shooty, right? That's what they say about Bill? All right. We've got congressional candidate Paul Young. Where's Paul at? Thank you, Paul. God bless you, man. Thank you, Paul. Paul's got a tough race, but I think not only are Donald Trump and I going to win the state of Michigan, Paul's going to join us in the United States Congress. Thank you, Paul. He's working hard. God bless you, man. So I don't know if you saw it, but it looks like maybe the Kamala Harris campaign, they think that they've got a problem with young men. And so they decided the solution to this, I just saw this a couple days ago when I was reading the news, is to have Tim Walz, the VP candidate, play Madden football online with AOC. And that's how they're going to solve their problems with young men. Now, I saw that I guess Governor Walz said that AOC runs a mean pick six. which those of you who know football, like, you don't run a pick six. A pick six is something that happens accidentally on the football field. You run like a spread offense or a West Coast offense. And it got me thinking, you know, they parade Tim Walsh around as some kind of a football genius, as a former football coach. And maybe I know more about football than Governor Tim Walsh does. And that's appropriate in some ways, because I think that my running mate, Donald J. Trump, knows more about working at McDonald's than Kamala Harris does. Now, we have a lot of fun, I think, at the Trump-Vance events, in part because I feel like we're winning, and I think everybody can feel the energy on the ground. But we also have fun because we all agree in this room that politics is a little absurd from time to time, and sometimes we ought to poke fun at the absurdity of our political process. But you know what's the most absurd thing about American politics in 2024? That a person like Kamala Harris thinks she can actually lead the United States of America. I've never seen anything like it in my life, where when you ask Kamala Harris what she wants to do for the American people, ask specifically, Kamala Harris, how do you plan to fix the inflation that your policies have caused? How do you plan to make it more affordable for our fellow citizens to be able to buy groceries, for example? How are you going to fix the very problems that your policies created? She'll say, well, I grew up in a middle-class family. And when you ask her, you know, about the terrible chaos at the southern border, or the chaos that we have all over the globe, how are you going to address the problems that your policies cause? She'll say, well, you know, when I worked at McDonald's, I was really good at making the hash browns. And I don't know if I even buy that she worked there, to the point I just made earlier, but even if she did, what the hell does that have to do with fixing the problems of the American people? And I think in 7 days, the great state of Michigan is going to tell Kamala Harris, we don't want any more of your word salad. We don't want any more of your broken policies. You are fired. Go back to California where you belong. We want a real president who fights for the American people. Now, you know, we're of course in the great state of Michigan. As all of you know better than I do, Michigan has got a lot of proud traditions. It's got a lot of proud farming traditions, and I just met some farmers earlier today. But it's also got a proud tradition of manufacturing the American automobile. And I think that Donald Trump knows better than anybody that we have got to revive the American auto industry and help the workers who build American cars, and we're going to do that when he's back in the White House. Now, the Harris administration has tried to kill the auto industry, and unfortunately, they've made a little progress, but they luckily haven't finished the job. But if they get back into another 4 years in the Oval Office, I really do believe that everything that we've seen over the last 4 years, it's going to be accelerated, and Michigan auto workers are going to pay the price. Her obsession, both in the way that she talks about it, but especially in the policies that she has advanced, Kamala Harris's obsession with electric vehicles and forcing Americans to buy Chinese-made electric vehicles is going to destroy the Michigan auto industry. So Donald Trump and I take a slightly different approach to this, where Kamala Harris wants to destroy 117,000 Michigan auto jobs with costly EV mandates. Donald Trump and I believe you ought to be able to drive whatever the hell car you want to, because this is the United States of America, and we believe in personal freedom. So we're going to eliminate every single one of Kamala Harris's auto job killing regulations. We're going to start, we're going to use what, as President Trump says all the time, we're going to use tariffs to actually protect American industry and to protect American workers. You go to Europe or you go overseas, how many General Motors or how many Ford automobiles do you see in the streets of Europe? None. You know why? Because those countries have applied aggressive tariffs to the cars that we make right here in the state of Michigan. And it's very simple. We're going to offer them a very, very simple deal. Either number one, you let us sell Michigan automobiles all over the world, or number two, you're going to pay a big fat tariff when you try to bring foreign cars back into the American market. God bless you. And we're also going to do something that President Trump announced a couple of weeks ago. We are going to fight to eliminate taxes on, we're going to try to make the interest rates that we're paying on car loans, we're going to make those payments tax deductible and save Michigan families some of their hard-earned money, but also help Michigan auto workers in the process. Now, the thing about Kamala Harris's economic proposals, not just when it comes to American-made automobiles, but on pretty much everything, is I think that she's got it exactly upside down. Think about this. Kamala Harris is the first politician I've ever seen in my life who goes around telling you that she wants to raise your taxes to the tune of thousands of dollars on Michigan auto families. She is bragging. Michigan auto families and Michigan, just everybody else too, she's bragging about the fact that she wants to raise your taxes and make you pay more to the federal government. At the same time, between the EV mandate and all the subsidies to foreign-made electric vehicles, she is rewarding foreign companies that ship American jobs overseas. Donald Trump, you know, he's got a slightly different approach to this and thinks that Kamala Harris has got it exactly backwards. Why don't we cut the taxes of the hardworking Americans in this room, and why don't we penalize companies that are shipping American jobs overseas? That makes a lot more sense than what Kamala Harris is proposing. But because of her failed leadership, we got to remember that there is a lot that has gone wrong in the United States of America. I believe as much as I have ever believed in the promise of the United States of America. The last 3 months have taught me more about the kindness, the generosity of spirit, and the talent of the American people. But we are not going to enjoy the golden age of prosperity that we can if we do the same old tired things that we've been doing for the last 4 years. And as much as Kamala Harris pretends that she is the candidate of change, she is the sitting vice president. She signed off, she bragged about being the last person in the room after the disastrous policies of the last 4 years were made. You cannot, Kamala Harris, pretend that you had nothing to do with the Biden administration when you are the sitting vice president. You can't pretend you had nothing to do with the trillions of dollars in new spending when you cast the tie-breaking vote on trillions of dollars in new spending. You cannot pretend to be the candidate of change when your party has been running the show for the last 4 years and the American people have suffered because of it. So we're going to say, as Donald Trump loves to say to Kamala Harris, in just 7 short days, you're fired. We're taking back the Oval Office for the American people. Now, when you actually run through the statistics, just how bad Kamala Harris's economy has gotten, it's almost hard to believe. Gas prices in Michigan are up 45% since when Donald Trump left office. Home prices in Michigan are 41% higher. Over 9% of credit card balances and 8% of auto loans are delinquent in this great state. That means our fellow Americans are suffering. They need help. They need better leadership, and in 7 short days, that's exactly what we're going to give to our fellow Americans. Now, for the first time in 40 years, this is true, for the first time in 40 years, and I'm 40 years old, and I actually turned 40 a couple of months ago, and I used to go around and saying how bad I felt because I just turned 40, and then somebody who just turned 70 would come up to me and say, shut the hell up about being mad, about being 40 years old. That's right. But for the first time in my lifetime, our fellow Americans are saying they're worse off financially now than they were 4 years ago. So in some ways, the question of this election is very simple. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And if, like a majority of our citizens, the answer is no, then why not vote for change? Why not vote for the peace and prosperity of Donald J. Trump? But I think the fact that so many of our fellow citizens are telling us they're worse off, and they're telling us that because they are, that explains why Kamala Harris is going around running as far away as she can from the policies of Joe Biden. In fact, between her copying Donald Trump's policies and her pretending that she doesn't even know who Joe Biden is, I'm half convinced that tomorrow on the campaign trail, Kamala Harris is going to show up in a long red tie and a red MAGA hat, realizing that the American people just haven't had it anymore. She's copying all of Donald Trump's policies. She might as well copy his style too, Just complete the bit, Kamala. It's not working so far. Just lean into it a little bit more. But here's the thing. Every now and then we're given a gift in the Trump campaign. And that gift is that as much as Kamala, when she's staged or when she's got a teleprompter in front of us, as much as she pretends that she would be a candidate of change, every now and then she tells the truth. And she did that a couple of weeks ago at an interview that she did for The View. Now, has anybody seen this interview with The View? Most of you have not, and thank God for that. Now, see, you will never hear me complain about being your vice presidential nominee. It's the honor of my life to get to go around and ask for you all to make me your next vice president. The coolest thing in the world. I'm thrilled about it. But here's the one thing that I'll complain about. Sometimes I watch Kamala Harris on The View so that you don't have to. That is the life of service that I've chosen, is I will watch Kamala Harris on The View to protect you fine people from having to do that. And 2 weeks ago, she goes on The View, and this is a softball of all softball interviews, right? Every single one of these people is voting for her. They're having her on the show to help her to try to distance from Joe Biden, and they ask her this question, softball question, Kamala Harris, would you have done anything differently over the last 4 years? And she kind of looks in the distance and goes, well, nothing comes to mind. Now, in defense of our illustrious vice president, that could be the campaign motto of the Harris Waltz campaign. Nothing comes to mind. Think about it. What is Kamala Harris going to do to fix the broken border? Nothing comes to mind. What is Kamala Harris going to do to lower the price of groceries? Nothing comes to mind. It's actually the perfect campaign slogan for a campaign that has no substance at all. But it drives home how much she has been dishonest with the American people. Because given an opportunity, without a teleprompter in front of her, to say what she would have done differently, she gave an honest answer. It would have been exactly the same. And if we give this person 4 more years in the Oval Office, it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be more of the broken policies on the economy. It's going to be more shipping Michigan manufacturing jobs to China. It's going to be more of the high prices, and it's going to be more of the broken southern border. So let's get out there and vote for a candidate of change. Let's get Donald J. Trump back in the White House. Now, I want to connect some of the biggest problems we have to what's going on, and I think is the biggest problem we have, which is that broken down southern border. Because when Kamala Harris came into the office, she bragged. They bragged about undoing all of Donald Trump's successful border policies. They said they were going to implement open borders, and that's exactly what they did. They said they were going to suspend deportations, and that's exactly what they did. They said they were going to stop Donald Trump's wildly successful Remain in Mexico policy, and that is exactly what they did. Now, of course, they'd like to run away from it now because they recognize the American people are pissed off about the open border. But I wanted to remind everybody in the state of Michigan that this wide-open southern border, it's not just bad because of the law and order problems. It's not just bad because it means that Mexican drug cartels are doing business in the state of Michigan, and they are. It's bad because of the effect that it's having on the affordability crisis affecting citizens in the state of Michigan. Think about this. When you let 25 million people into your country, you got to put them somewhere. And we know sometimes, by the way, they're staying at five-star hotels on your dime. But we also know that they're going into homes that ought by right go to American citizens. Now, we believe, Donald Trump and I believe, and we're going to fight for this, that if we have smarter economic policies, we can lower mortgage interest rates and make it easier for you to afford to buy a home. We believe that if we lower the ridiculous regulations and build more houses, we're going to make it easier for our young people to afford the American dream of homeownership, and we've got to do that. It's very important. But we got to be honest, no matter how many homes you build, if you allow homes that ought by right go to American citizens, go to illegal aliens, then we are never going to make it affordable for our young people to buy a home. So here is the most simple and the most important thing that we can do to make the American dream of homeownership affordable again. Ensure that American homes go to American citizens, deport illegal aliens, and that is how you make the American dream more affordable again. And it's not just about making things more affordable again, it's about everything. Everywhere that I go, I hear about people who have been ravaged by the fentanyl epidemic. And if you know anything about my background, you know that I was raised by my grandmother because my mom struggled with opioid addiction for a big chunk of my early life. Now, I am very proud of my mom because she stands here today almost at the 10-year mark of sobriety. She's been clean and sober for coming up on 10 years. And I want all of our people, whether they're suffering from addiction themselves or they're a family member of somebody who is, I want all of you to have the same second chance that we got with my mom. But it's not going to happen unless we stop the flow of poison that the Mexican drug cartels are bringing into this country. We got to get it out of our country. But the only way that we're going to do that is to shut down that border, and the only way that we're going to do it, now that Kamala Harris has made the Mexican drug cartels the richest and most powerful criminal organizations in the world, the only way we're going to get our country back is if we do what Donald J. Trump has promised, use the United States military against those Mexican drug cartels and make America safe for American citizens again. When you take stock of this border crisis and you look at the numbers, it is overwhelming. And then when you talk to people who are actually affected by it, as so many of you have been, it becomes even more overwhelming. I was in Wisconsin yesterday. There have been Mexican drug cartel members arrested in rural Wisconsin, in rural Michigan. We have got people who shouldn't even be in this country hundreds and hundreds of miles away from the country of Mexico who are getting rich by doing crime in our communities. Now, I know we've got a lot of parents and we've got a lot of grandparents out there. I want my children to grow up in a country that is safe enough for them to make a mistake or walk down the street without it ruining their lives. And here's what I mean by that. I was in Valdosta, Georgia, and if you've heard the name Valdosta, Georgia, it's probably because it got hit pretty hard by Hurricane Helene just a couple of weeks ago. But I was there a few weeks before it got hit by the hurricane, and I was in with the sheriffs, and they were showing me what's called the interdiction room, where they intercept all the drugs and the illegal guns that are brought into our country by these cartels. And you know, there's a table in front of me. It's got machine guns and things that the cartels have been using. And then they've got all manner of drugs. You got bags of marijuana, you've got pills, you've got meth, you've got cocaine, and they showed me something that looked out of place, and it was a box of candy, like Sour Patches, Nerds candy, and I say, what is going on here with this box of candy? That doesn't belong here. You know, Sour Patch Kids, like my wife likes those. I'm more of a chocolate guy, but what the hell are Sour Patch Kids doing in the interdiction room? And they say, that's not Sour Patch Kids, that's not candy, that's drugs. That the Mexican drug cartels, they realize if they disguise it as candy, it's going to be more likely to get into our country. Now, we know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that a packet of that candy is going to show up on an American playground, and an American child is going to eat a piece of candy and pay for it with his or her life. And that is because of the failed leadership of Kamala Harris. We have got to get back to a place where our kids can live as children again, and they will when Donald J. Trump is back in the White House. Now, I want to say just one other thing, because I think it's important to reflect on how each of our respective campaigns is making our pitch to the American people, because I think it says a lot about who the candidates themselves are. We're not just voting red team versus blue team. We're voting for a person who's going to be president of the United States. I'd like to compare my running mate to the person at the top of the Democratic ticket. Remember, we all saw it a few months ago when President Trump took a bullet to the ear, nearly killed the man, and stood up seconds later and raised his fist in the air in defiance. We all remember that moment. How can we forget it? Half of you have it printed on your T-shirts, it looks like, but you should, because it was a proud moment. But here's the other thing. Something you probably haven't heard is about a month later, during the second assassination attempt on President Trump's life, and it's crazy to even say that, but it happened, I was sitting at home with my son in Cincinnati, and I get a call, and it's the president, and I said, "Hey, sir, what's going on?" He said, "JD, they just tried to do it again." And I said, "They tried to do what again?" He said, "They tried to shoot me again." And this was well before the news had become public. I guess I was the first person that he called to tell. And I said, "Well, how are you doing, sir? I mean, clearly, physically, you're okay, but, you know, how are you doing? That's a pretty traumatic thing that just happened." And he said, "Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm kind of pissed off because they wouldn't let me finish my round of golf. I was about to make a birdie on the 6th hole. I'm dead serious." That's what he said. I was more tore up about it than he was. And I realized in that moment that this is the kind of person that you actually want in the Oval Office of the United States of America, because, look, it's not an easy job, my friends. It's a stressful job, but who do we want in the Oval Office? Do we want a person who runs away from friendly American media interviews, or do we want a person who shows literal courage under fire? That's Donald J. Trump, and that's our president, and we're going to make him the whole country's president in just one short week. But that is the kind of man that is at the top of the Republican ticket. And let's compare how the Democrats are making their closing message to the American people. Because I don't think that I've ever seen a more disgraceful closing argument than what I've seen from Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And look, it's fine. Look, politics is politics. I volunteered for this job. Criticize me, attack me, insult me. It's what I signed up for. But don't you dare insult the brave Americans who are fighting for this movement. Don't attack the voters of the United States of America. And that's what Kamala Harris is doing. Because you know what they compared just 2 days ago? We had this incredible rally, over 100,000 people at Madison Square Garden in New York City. It was an incredible thing. We had patriots from all over the country showing up, speaking, volunteering, and of course we had over 100,000 New Yorkers who showed up for the rally itself. And you know what Governor Tim Walz and the entire Democrat machine have been comparing that rally to? A Nazi rally from the 1930s. They've been calling, rather than persuade their fellow Americans, they've decided that they're going to call their fellow Americans Nazis and fascists, and I think it's disgusting. And a person who would close out her campaign by running and attacking her fellow Americans has no business leading the greatest nation on earth. And it occurs to me that when they attack us as Nazis, it's so disgraceful because there are people in this room right now who have grandparents, who have parents, or who they themselves fought in World War II. I met a World War II veteran literally 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, and there he is right there. Thank you, sir. God bless you. And you think about this. This is a man who actually fought real Nazis, who actually cared enough about this country to put his life on the line for it. And you think about when Kamala Harris calls us Nazis, I couldn't help but think about this brave gentleman in the front row. I couldn't help but go and look at a photo of the people who stormed Normandy back in June of 1944. And I wonder, do you think those men today would like how their reputation and their brave and heroic deeds were being used by Kamala Harris's campaign? Here's my honest view. If you think that the men who stormed the beaches at Normandy did it to give taxpayer-funded sex changes to illegal aliens, do you think that the men who stormed the beaches at Normandy did it to ship all of our good manufacturing jobs off to China? Do you think the men who stormed the beaches at Normandy did it for a president who wants to open the American southern border? I don't think so. And in fact, I think that if you believe those men were fighting for taxpayer-funded sex changes and to open the American southern border, the technical term to describe you is a dipshit. And that is... So my message to Kamala Harris is, why don't you try persuading your fellow citizens? Why don't you try talking about how you're going to lower grocery prices? Why don't you try talking about how you're going to undo your own disastrous border policies? Do not dare go in front of the cameras and call your fellow citizens Nazis. If you want to lead this country, act like a leader and stop insulting your fellow citizens. And with all gratitude to everybody who served, with all gratitude to everybody who, of course, you're here, so I'm assuming that you're at least open to voting for the Trump-Vance ticket, but I think by the applause, more than open to it. I want us to not do what Kamala Harris is doing, and I want us to actually follow President Trump's lead here because, yeah, President Trump can dish it out as well as anybody. He's the best counterpuncher in American politics. But when President Trump goes after his political opponents, he goes after Kamala Harris and he goes after Tim Walz. He criticizes the people who stepped into the arena, which, again, is his right to do. Every person who steps into the arena asks for it. But you know what Donald Trump doesn't do? Donald Trump doesn't attack everybody who's going to vote for the other side as a fascist or a Nazi. He doesn't demean his fellow citizens, even the ones who aren't going to vote for him. And so I'd ask us to follow that lead. Let's give Kamala Harris and Tim Walz hell. Let's remind the American people that they can't afford groceries or housing because of the policies of Kamala Harris. Let's remind our fellow citizens that the open border is because Kamala Harris has failed to do her job. But let's remember that after we win, we are all the part of a great American family. And yes, even the people who voted against Kamala Harris, we love them and we want their peace and their prosperity too. Thank you. God bless you, Michigan. Thank you for having me, and I guarantee I'll be back. Thank you. Now, but before I hit the road, we do have a few reporters in the back, and I think we've got some local folks. So let's take a few questions from the local reporters.
Yes, James Felton from WNEM TV5. We are the CBS affiliate here in Saginaw.
How you doing, James?
Good, how are you?
Good.
All right. Every year since 2008, Saginaw County and Michigan have voted for the eventual winner of the presidential election. So for the path to 270, how important is it for your campaign to carry Saginaw County and Michigan?
Look, it's extremely important. Michigan is one of, if not the very most important battleground state. And to your point, Saginaw County is a very important part of the state of Michigan. But I think the folks here in Saginaw County, our argument is very simple and very direct, is do you want to go back to the peace and prosperity of Donald J. Trump, or do you want to double down on the failed policies of the last 4 years? Because when you don't have to agree with everything that I say, you don't have to agree with everything that Donald Trump says, but when you look at the 1.5% inflation when Donald Trump was president, when you look at the fact that take-home pay was rising as fast as it had in 40 years, you look at the fact that the border was closed down and the world was more peaceful, I think a lot of Americans would just like to go back to the prosperity and the peace of Donald Trump's leadership. And that's what we're fighting for. So I feel very good about Saginaw County. I feel very good about the state of Michigan. Of course, the voters will make the ultimate decision, but I think the voters of this great state are going to vote for change. They're going to vote for peace. They're going to vote for prosperity. They're going to vote for Donald J. Trump. Thank you. Next question.
Hello, Senator. My name is AJ Jones, WCMU local public radio station. I have a question about foreign policy.
Sure.
This week, the Israeli parliament passed a law that would ban UNRWA, the United Nations Refugee Agency for the Palestinians. The Biden administration opposed that decision. Now, I want to give you the floor here. Would a Trump-Vance administration support Israel banning UNRWA? And as a follow-up, would you earmark any federal aid for humanitarian causes in Gaza as the current administration has?
So, couple of things. First of all, of course we want to save as many civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian, as possible. The most important way to do that is to end the war. And this is why I think that Donald J. Trump, I've never seen anything like it in American politics, where you've got the people in the United States who are a little bit more pro-Palestinian and the people in the United States who are a little bit more pro-Israel. I think they recognize, both of them, that Donald J. Trump is the best candidate because he's the candidate of peace and prosperity. And that's a big difference. When you've got a chaotic leader like Kamala Harris, when you've got a person where fires just spring up all over the world, everybody knows that it's the innocent people who get caught up in the conflict who suffer the most. We cannot have an incompetent leader in the Oval Office. We can't have Kamala Harris. So, to your specific question, look, my understanding about UNRWA is that you actually have explicit connections to terrorists for some of the employees on the ground there, right? That's disgraceful. And that means that whether it's the entire organization or certainly some of the people on the ground, they have to do better at vetting their people so that you don't actually have explicit terrorist connections. Again, we all want to save Palestinian civilians. We don't want to support the terrorists on the ground who are killing innocent Israelis in the process, right? And I think those goals are totally compatible. Let's save as many Palestinian lives as possible, but let's not empower the terrorists who are murdering innocent Israelis. We can do both of those things at the same time. Next question.
Hi, Senator. I'm Carol Thompson from the Detroit News. Thank you for taking a question. Given Elon Musk's large spending in this race, would a new Trump administration give preferential treatment to Tesla over the Detroit Big Three automakers?
No, of course not. Look, I'm personally thrilled to have Elon's support, and people have to remember, Elon was a center-left Clinton Democrat 4 years ago, and now he's putting on dark MAGA hats because he's sick of the craziness and wants to get back to common sense. And I think that's why. And I think that's why Elon is supporting our candidacy. It's not because he thinks that we're going to do anything for him. It's because he thinks that we're going to make the American nation more peaceful, more prosperous, and more secure, and that's what we're going to do. Now, of course, look, I love the big three automakers in the state of Michigan. I want the big three automakers to thrive and to survive, but they're not going to if we keep on forcing electric vehicles made in China down the throats of American consumers and American workers. So obviously Elon is very interested in electric vehicles, and the president, ribs him from time to time that, look, if you want to make electric vehicles, great. We don't want to force anybody to drive anything. That's the whole point. But our belief is that the way to empower the American automobile industry is to let consumers decide and let Michigan workers do what they do best, which is make great automobiles. Next question.
Hi, Senator. Simon Levy in New York Times. My question is about your comments at a town hall with Moms for America, where you said that in an ideal world where illegal immigration is brought under control, those resources used to manage illegal immigration would be used to expand legal pathways of citizenship. Could you be specific how the Trump administration would dedicate resources to that, assuming illegal immigration is brought under control?
Well, look, you have people right now who are doing it the right way, who have been in some backlog for years, and they're not able to have their claims processed because we're spending so much money on illegal immigration that we're not doing anything other than basically facilitating the massive illegal invasion into the United States of America. That has to stop. And when it does stop, not only will we save resources that can better be used, I mean, look, if a person has done everything the right way and needs to have their claims processed, we ought to process their claims so long as they're following the law. We should not be facilitating illegal immigration to this country. So spend money on one thing, don't spend money on the illegal immigration. I think that's pretty simple. But the other thing we have to be honest about is that we are actually spending ourselves into bankruptcy by spending on illegal aliens instead of American citizens. And this is a very serious problem. You know, Kamala Harris, it's so interesting. One of the many lies of their campaign is that she says Republicans are going to go after Social Security and Medicare. You know what's going to bankrupt Social Security and Medicare? Giving it to illegal aliens, which is exactly what she's promised to do. It's very simple. Now, I've seen estimates from anywhere between $100 billion or $400 billion. That's the amount of money that we spend on illegal aliens in this country every single year. We're talking about Medicare fraud, Social Security fraud. We're talking about housing benefits, welfare benefits. Why can't we have a United States government, an American leader that focuses on the people who have the legal right to be here? Why can't we do that? I just don't get it. And I don't understand. And I don't understand why Kamala Harris thinks that it's racist for the American people to have a border. I don't understand why Kamala Harris thinks that she ought to accuse her fellow citizens rather than solve the problems that she created. I don't know, I've never seen a campaign in the history of the United States of America that when confronted with a massive problem like the illegal immigration problem of Kamala Harris, instead of saying, you know what, I screwed up, I'm going to fix it, Kamala Harris attacks her fellow citizens and tries to silence them. I think it is disgraceful. We ought to have an American leader who, when the American people are drowning in illegal immigration, says, you know what, we're going to help you and we're going to solve the problem rather than attacking you for noticing the problem. And now, I want to leave you with one final thought, my friends, and I want to make sure I got my notes here because I don't want to screw this part up. This is the most important part because I want to ask you three things. Three things before you guys leave here today. Number one, I want you to go, or you can do this at home, go to the website swampthevoteusa.com. That's where you can check your registration, check your polling location, check your absentee ballot request, or if you're so inclined, get involved in some of the ground game that we have here in the state of Michigan. That's swampthevoteusa.com. Number two, this is the second thing I'm going to ask. I want you guys to get out there and talk about why you're voting for Donald J. Trump, especially on social media, on text message, on email, whatever method of communication you use. Get out there and tell people why you're voting for Donald J. Trump. Because again, Kamala Harris and her corporate media allies, they're never going to tell the truth about this movement and about our candidate, but you can tell the truth. And if you do that, we're going to win the state of Michigan. And this is the third and final thing. I want to get every single person in this auditorium, in this gymnasium, every single person, get out there and vote 10 times. Now, our friend from the New York Times is going to be headline news later that JD Vance comes to Saginaw and encourages mass voter fraud. Here is the legal way. The legal way to vote 10 times is take yourself to the polls and get 9 of your friends and family to go along with you. That's the legal way. Because I think, you know, the stakes, the media tries to make this much more complicated than it is. We're trying to make sure that our fellow citizens have leadership that is fit to serve in the White House. We want our fellow citizens to be able to afford groceries. We want our fellow citizens to be able to afford housing. We want our fellow citizens to have a secure southern border and safe neighborhoods, and the only way we're going to do that is if we fix the broken leadership in Washington, D.C. In 7 days, my friends, that's exactly what we're going to do. Donald J. Trump for president. Let's get it done. God bless you all. Thank you so much.